Hello and welcome to the off-campus information session for CC students. My name is Edwin Hamada, the Assistant Director for the Residential Experience, and I have an illustrious panel of experts that will be happy to talk about and answer some questions regarding some off-campus questions and off-campus resources that we received from parents and students recently. So I will ask Maggie Santos to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Maggie Santos. I'm the Director of Campus Safety, and this year I am running the Emergency Operations Center involving COVID and our responses here at CC.
Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Hill. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm Director of Campus Activities and Student Orientation.
And last but not least, Luis.
Luis Valdez. I'm one of our RLC's Residential Life Coordinators over at East Campus, which includes cottages, Synergy, Jackson, also off campus and supplemental housing.
Great. So the way that this format will go is I'll be asking questions that we received in advance, and I'll open it up to the panel and we will be answering those questions as best as we can. The one thing I want to articulate before we answer some of these questions are that many of the questions were asked future decisions that haven't been made. So there are some summer decisions, there are some spring decisions that haven't been made, but those questions were asked. So those are questions that we will not be able to answer today. But again, the questions that we are asking and we will be answering, we have information for today that we will best answer based upon today's information. But as we all know, things rapidly shift, and we will do our best to keep everybody updated as those shifts happen. So the first question that I want to toss out there's a lot of questions just about access to campus. So, so the first question is, what are the prerequisites to being able to access campus?
I can take that one, Edwin. So students who would like access to campus have been asked to complete a fall living survey. And so those include students who have moved off campus, who would like limited access to campus, as well as students who are off campus who might have in-person classes, and students who are remaining on campus or have just moved to campus. And so we just want to have an idea of what people's plans are. And so from that fall living survey, students who have been added to a Canvas course. And so in this Canvas course, there's a series of modules that talk about COVID education, Title IX community conduct standards, as well as some other updates that students need to know, as well as some commitments to understanding what campus access is and that it is a privilege. And if students aren't following our protocols, access to campus as well as on-campus living privileges can be revoked, and students might be referred to the conduct process for more severe sanctions. And so we have students complete this module. They need to score an 80% or above on the quizzes, as well as 100% on the completion and understanding and acknowledgement of campus and procedures. Once those are completed, we are pulling lists and giving access to campus to different students based on their individual circumstances and what access they need. So we have given a deadline of September 30th, and so students who haven't completed this module by September 30th will have all of their access to campus revoked. And so we will be stopping all gold cards, doing a completely fresh upload, a hard reset there, and students who haven't completed these modules will no longer have access. And so what does that give them access to? Students who are living on campus will have access to the academic buildings that they're taking classes in, as well as Tut, Warner, the rec center, the residence halls, and a few other facilities. Students who are living off campus will have more limited access to the Tut Library, the Warner Center, and to the Campus Recreation Center. And so students who are living off campus who have access will be able to use their Warner boxes. They will be able to come and get to-go food at Colorado Coffee or Rastal, but they must complete these Canvas modules. prior to arriving to campus, even though they have access, there are a few steps that they need to do to maintain access and be on campus. So prior to arriving to campus or leaving the residence hall for the day, they need to log in to the CC app and complete the COVID screener that will show a green check. And then they're going to show that green check on entrance to these public spaces, as well as swipe their key card, and then they'll be able to use the space as they regularly would.
Thank you. That answered a lot of questions that were out there. So thank you very much, Amy. Another question that kind of popped up was about if someone was receiving a COVID test and they tested positive. Maybe, I'm not sure if Maggie could talk a little bit about what that process might look like or what resources are available. What does it mean for an off-campus student to test positive?
So there's actually two processes for somebody who tests positive. If you were on campus, the contact tracing process is done through campus. However, if you're off campus and you come back positive, that's going to be handled by the health department. The place that campus is available to help is with Optum. That is the health center is available to students even if they live off campus. So if you need resources, you can contact them. If you need additional resources, Campus Safety is available 24 hours, but realizing that living off campus, those resources are going to be a little more limited. We will support you in finding you additional resources, but you will not be allowed to stay on campus to quarantine or isolate. You'll have to do that in your own space. So if there's a question, we're here 24/7. The Emergency Operations Center is working with the health department so we can find those questions or answers for your questions if you have them.
So there was a question about some internet access. And Luis, I was wondering if you could talk about for off-campus students that are allowed to be on campus, how would they access internet?
Yeah, I mean, so they as long as they're approved to be on campus and they're on campus, they're able to access that internet. I imagine that a lot more of that like use of that access will be done, either like at the library or in like an academic building if they are, in class or getting ready to go to class or leave class, kind of utilizing it there. Typically, we would see like a lot more students, sitting in at Warner, using their computers, using their laptops and utilizing the internet that way. But I know that we have limited the ability to stay within Warner. And so that's going to look a little different, but I would say, any student, any person really is allowed to log into that internet. And so students who are approved to be on campus, the only thing that's preventing them from using that internet is, if they're in a space that they're allowed to be sitting in or that they're allowed to be staying in, so.
There was a general question about food. So if a student was allowed to be on campus, maybe had some in-class, in-person classes, where would they be able to eat? How would they be able to pay? Just generically speaking, not necessarily getting specifically into meal plans and what have you, but I'm hungry. I want to eat lunch. Where could I go?
My office, Campus Activities, is in the Warner Center, and that's where most of the facilities to dine that are currently operational are located. And so that's where Rastel is, that's where Colorado Coffee is, as well as Benji's. And so students should check their Today at CC Digest, because usually on Sunday or first Mondays, there will be an update about which cafes are open and what the hours are, as well as on the Bon Appetit social media. And then the Bon Appetit Cafe menus will list which facilities are open and what the meals are for that day. And so Rastel is kind of where most of the meal service is happening right now. It is grab and go. And so I believe it's for $8.49. You can fill up half a bag of food, which is about a meal and a half, or for $12, you can fill up a full bag of food, which is about a day and a half of food. And so you can come in, the food is beautifully plated, see what you're interested in, and then walk through the stations to fill up your bags with drinks, cookies, salads. There's an avoiding gluten station. There's always a noodle station. There's usually pizza, and then there's a grill that will have like fresh vegetables and grilled meats. And I find myself eating there a lot these days to get my grab and go lunch, because it's a really great price for the quantity and quality of food that you're getting. And so students can use their debit cards and Tiger dollars at both of these. So if they have money on their gold cards for like Gold Card Plus, they can use that to dine at these facilities. We're in the process of figuring out what off-campus meal plan access would look like. So stay tuned to the FAQs for more information about that. But really, you can't beat the price for the amount of food that you're able to get and the quality of food, and students who are able to access campus are able to use their debit cards in Bon Appetit dining spaces.
Yeah, I think, I agree with everything that Amy just said. I also, as a live-in professional, kind of utilize that quite often as well. And it has been pretty fantastic. And pretty simple to go through. They have it very well organized, so that way you are social distancing. There's not like different flows of traffic. There is very clearly labeled like how you have to navigate the space, which I think is pretty orderly. On top of that, like Amy said too, I'm a big guy and I eat a lot, and for the price I do get about a day and a half, almost 2 days worth of food. So as students off campus are looking for like budget friendly options and things like that, it really is a really good offering. So
Maggie, can you talk a little bit about sort of the expectations for CC students to live off campus, in terms of being a good neighbor, how are we holding them accountable, things like that?
Certainly. One of the things that everybody has to realize is we have not changed the process or the protocol for how we deal with students who live off campus just because of COVID. It has always been a neighbor-friendly response, because we are part of the community of the Old North End, and they will call campus safety directly if there's issues with sound or even things like garbage in the neighborhood. And we're here to be responsive to the students and the community, because you're part of the community. But realize that just because you don't live on campus doesn't mean that you don't have to abide by the code of conduct. So the code of conduct applies to both students on campus and off campus. And part of that is that you just have to be like everybody else in the neighborhood. You have to be a good neighbor. When campus safety responds to a house off campus, like I said, the neighbors know us, they call us, we respond as a courtesy to those CC students, because our priority is to remind those students to be good neighbors, about the noise, of how you treat your neighbors, things like that. But we're also there as a benefit to those students, because we're here to make sure that law enforcement doesn't get involved and they don't respond. So we show up, we explain what parties, noise complaints, those kinds of things that might involve your neighbors and their concerns, but sometimes we also will facilitate a relationship with your neighbors. If you don't know your neighbors, my suggestion is you go introduce yourself, bring them some cookies, say, if you have a problem, call me first. And then if that doesn't work, then they normally call us. But many students who live off campus set up that relationship ahead of time, and that avoids involving campus safety or law enforcement. And that will be part of that whole process of just being a neighbor. And our expectation is you're not a CC student, you are a Colorado Springs community member, and you should behave that way.
I think to add on to that too, Maggie, one of the things that I talk about like a lot of with our off-campus students as they, potentially are not acting as good neighbors, it's kind of like 100%. I always have that conversation of reaching out, bringing cookies, like leaving notes, whatever, to like build that relationship. But the thing is that relationship has to be continued throughout the year. It can't just be like you do it one time and then just ride that off. Like it has to continuously happen, especially if there's like harm done to that relationship. And if you're going to be giving your number, which you need to be accountable to that. So if they're calling it and then you're just not answering the phone, then they're never going to want to deal with you, and they're going to go straight to either campus safety or CSPD. So making sure that it's like a continuous relationship that's being developed.
One of the other things I want to say is we can also be a resource to you as students who live off campus. If there's issues or concerns that happen, somebody comes onto your property, there's a criminal event that occurs at your house, somebody damaged your car, you can call Campus Safety. We have a campus resource officer who is a police officer for Colorado Springs Police, who will take your report, who will give you information, will connect you with the right resources at the police department or code enforcement or any other entity within the city. So that we're here to help you, not just to respond to noise complaints. One of the other things that we provide is what's called a SEPTED, is once you move into the house, you call us, we will send the police, our police officer, our campus resource officer, and a campus safety officer to that house, and then we will give you a report on how to make that space safer. Do you need better locks? Do you need to fix your windows? Do you need additional smoke detectors? Those are things that we can even provide a smoke detector if you don't have one. By code enforcement, your landlord should be providing that, but we can give you a list of things that you need to make yourself safer. So that's something that's also available if you need it from us.
So there have been some questions, and I will apologize in advance because there are 3 or 4 questions that were asked about financial aid. And so I have the answers. And so the reason why I'm apologizing is I'm going to be asking myself these questions and answering them off of a sheet of paper. So anyways, let me begin with, so students that are on financial aid and they started on campus and they pay for housing, but now that they moved off campus, will they receive a refund, a housing stipend, credit? And that's basically the question. And so the answer that I received was, for students that move off campus in an apartment in Colorado Springs, they must provide their lease to financial aid, and their aid will remain the same, and their housing charges will be reduced. For some, this savings in their payment plan and their parents can then help pay for housing. For others, it will be a refund. Each solution is different as expected. Again, in order to upload the lease, you go to the financial aid homepage and there's a button to do so. So if you have a lease off campus in Colorado Springs, you need to be sure that you upload that lease there. So how much money will a student that moved off campus after the first block was on financial aid receive in a refund or a housing stipend? And that is a very similar answer. Again, it really depends upon the individual and what their aid is. But again, you have to upload your lease information, and then individually that information will be navigated through financial aid, and then your refund will be issued, or the credit will be issued. The timeline for that was ideally after October 1st. So right now we are in the process of figuring out who is officially off campus, we know who's living in the residence halls, but who is living off campus. We're providing that list, and financial aid after October 1st is hoping to get those refunds and everything kind of squared away. So within the next day or two within the next day or two, they're furiously working on that in order to get that aid distributed back by October 1st. So the question about housing and meal cost be reduced from their tuition bill. So the answer is yes, students will receive a credit to their account for reduced room and board. So again, if you've prepaid in advance, you will get that credit back on your bill again after October 1st. And yeah, those are basically the answers that were out there with that. So the other question that I'm going to kind of throw out to the group, or just throw out to whoever would like to answer it, and this might actually be appropriate for Amy, but others could jump in. But there's a lot of concern about students that have been required or weren't able to live on campus. There's a lot of questions about what is a residential experience. We're a residential campus. What does that experience look like? What resources are available, which we've been talking about. But but the concept of students thriving, the concept of them engaging within that community, what does that look like? You know, what are some of the things that are out there that really are continuing to engage our students and helping them thrive and navigate during these tough times?
So we've been really busy planning a lot of events and hosting events so that students are engaged with each other and engaged with the community. So I don't think the narrative that there's nothing going on is actually true, because I am working with student organizations, I'm working with offices, we are programming in a variety of different formats, and it is very hybrid this year. And so we have a lot of events that are happening online via Zoom, and I understand that people are Zoomed out and they're tired, but we are also operating under the restrictions of on-campus gatherings need to be fewer than 10 people, and that's including the people facilitating or leading those. And so we're doing a lot of small scale activities, both on the weekends, through the week, and on block breaks. And so some examples of what happened in first block include we had a tie-dye afternoon that was in person. We had a music bingo that was on Zoom. We had our campus activities nights over Zoom, where we had over 80 student organizations host drop-in hours, and students could fill out a survey to get signed up with those organizations. And so our student organizations are meeting right now. If students want to get plugged into those, they can reach out to me and I can help consult them on which clubs might be a good fit for them and make an introduction to the club leader. Or they can go to the campus activities website and see all of the clubs that are listed and just send out an email to those students to see when they're meeting. Typically, we have around 120 clubs a year. This year, we're operating closer to 80 a year, just because some of the student leaders have taken a year off or are going to be remote and don't have the capacity to lead. But there's still those 80 groups that are being very active. And so Dance Workshop is putting together some socially distanced outdoor performances where they'll be performing a 20-minute dance show for 10 students over 3 times over the course of 4 hours, which is going to be an awesome event that's coming up. We have done a walking tour of downtown for students. We did a bike tour to Garden of the Gods, an overnight camping trip. And so all of these things that are happening are being advertised in a few different ways. Students should read their emails from me, Amy Hill. I send out the weekend digest every Friday at noon that talks about what is happening that weekend and how students can sign up. And then on the 3rd Wednesday of the block, I send out the block break digest. Again, very similar, so they can see what's happening over the block break. And when they're doing events with campus activities, they can expect that we'll ask them to introduce themselves, and they'll be more interactive. It's not just going to be like watching someone perform, though we have had a magician come and it was an interactive show where he pulled people from the digital audience to do magic tricks on. And so students, like they would always need to do when they're transitioning to college, they need to step outside of their comfort zone and take some ownership of how they're getting involved and how they're engaging on campus. So in addition to reading those emails that might end up in their other inbox if they're using Outlook on web browser, I always like to point that out because people will not see those emails that are really important and have a lot of fun stuff coming on because they're not looking in their other inbox. And then they also should read their Today at CC's that's coming every morning that again talk about what events are happening or announcements and processes that they need to take. And then follow different offices and departments and student organizations on social media. And so student groups will be posting, hey, we're gonna have like an impromptu slackline event on the quad, or we're gonna play spike ball, or we're gonna have a hammock hang. And those things are more organically happening, and I might not even know about them because it's an hour before on social media. The first 10 people to show up get to hang out here. So if any students are struggling to connect, please reach out to my office, but they need to identify themselves because I'm doing what I can with the students that we have living on campus, but I also have to be mindful of the fact that people are remote, people are off campus, and we want to provide opportunities that everyone can take advantage of regardless of their individual circumstances.
There was a very specific question about West Edge and are utilities included in the fees to West Edge? And a simple answer is yes, that is all inclusive of the utilities are added in there. A couple questions were very specific to the spring. The college is announcing plans for the spring sometime in October, most likely later October, because obviously as things are shifting, we're trying to make the best decisions as we can. And so sometime in October, there will be an announcement of what spring might look like, if that looks similar to now, or if it looks like a regular year. But those will be announced sometime in October. So I would like to invite our guests to kind of either articulate, if there's a question that maybe you want to highlight, or a point that maybe you want to really articulate it from your area, or just things in general about reassurances or information that might be useful for off-campus students. Here is your opportunity to do that. So who would like to go first?
I just want to reiterate that even though students are living off campus, they are still CC students. Resources are still here for you. You just need to reach out and ask, and people will try to find that for you.
Yeah, and as they are like RLC for off campus, like Maggie said, campus safety provides a lot, and I also think like the CEPTED is the easiest and one of the best things you could possibly do living off campus, because it's no cost to you and all it does is make your space safer. But as like the RLC, like you still have things too, right? Like some folks still might have issues with their housemates, especially as we navigate how people are reacting to a pandemic differently, right? Sometimes there's some tension or some difficulty with how some folks are managing and how some others are in the house. And so like, it's okay to still reach out to me to discuss that or to want to have a mediated conversation, that sort of thing. But regardless of if you're like local in the Springs off campus or, in Massachusetts, which one out of every 3 students it feels like is from, you still have access to all of those resources, right? Whether it be campus activities, whether it be the residential experience or WRC, Butler Center, like anything. And so please utilize those. It's kind of a dual-edged sword, because we want to make sure that we are making you all still feel part of our community and still that you are still included in these things. But it's also, we need folks to reach out, because we can't be at every off-campus residence, so it's hard to know what the climate is in each house and what is needed by each student there. And so reaching out, and whether it's like a start with me and then I can refer you outwards if need be, that's great. But just knowing that like we do need you all to give us a little as well, so we can still be there for you, because we want to be. So
thanks for that, Louise. And I would agree, like there is no wrong door. Like reach out to your advising hub advisor, reach out to me, reach out to your RLC to say, hey, like I need some help. I need some connections, because we're not mind readers. And we're trying to program and support the entire student population. And until individuals let us know their needs, we can't be super responsive to all of those individual circumstances. And I know that everyone is inundated with information. And so when I say like read your emails, like it probably gets pretty annoying, because reading your emails now is like going to the mail to check your mail to see what bills you got. But that is the way that the college communicates. Mostly we also do, we'll put up information on the college's Instagram or Facebook. And so follow those channels as well as other offices that you might want to get involved in, like the Office of Sustainability or Outdoor Ed, Campus Activities, the Butler Center, the Wellness Resource Center, just so you have a better idea of all that's out there. Would, I guess, be my final piece of advice.
Yeah. One thing I want to reinforce and piggyback on a lot of what's been stated. The life skill of being assertive, asking questions, trying to resolve situations. It is a life skill that we are wanting to facilitate here at Colorado College. And so if things are not going well, if you have questions, just do some outreach, and really you could outreach to anybody, because we will be happy to connect you to the appropriate person. As someone that is very new to the university, that has been my strategy, is I just will ask somebody, and it may not even be close to what their title is, but they know somebody that is able to get them that answer. And so that is whoever you are connecting with, even if it's a question that may not necessarily apply to their area, that is something that we would be happy to connect you with the right resource with that. That is, I believe that is the CC way. All the staff members are committed to the student experience, and that is something that you really shouldn't just sit around. The other thing I wanted to add is it always, not just issues that pop up. If you want to have a happy conversation about how things are going, we would love to have those conversations too. So sometimes it's not just problem solving. Sometimes it's just, hey, I did really well in my exam. I really want to just chat with somebody. And there would be many people that would love to spend a good 15, 20 minutes talking about that. Amy, you got something?
I forgot one last parting thought. Do your fall living survey if you haven't already, and finish your Canvas course with an 80% completion rate, so that on September 30th, your campus access is not revoked. And to Edwin's point about wanting to chat with people, I think when I'm in line at Rastel, I try to do icebreakers and get the people in line to talk to each other. And people are like, why is this person trying to build community in line, but talk to the people in line next to you, make friends, chat people up, don't be shy. And as an introvert, I know that's hard, but you can push yourself and chat with me when you see me in Rastel.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, and let's have a really successful rest of the semester. Bye.